Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. This is the second webinar in a four-part series that together form the AIVC April workshop or spring workshop. The first one was last week covering building ventilation and how it affects the COVID transmission in buildings. Today we're going to focus on indoor air quality and ventilation metrics, and then next week and the week after we will have a two-part discussion on big data, indoor air quality and ventilation. Just some context for the current webinar. So the webinar is in preparation or startup of the IAVC Annex 86 that was approved for the preparation year last June and will hopefully start its working phase June this year. The topic of ventilation and IAQ metrics has already been dealt with in other AIVC publications, such as TechNote 68 on ventilation and health, and also the contributed reports 17 and 19, my apologies, that are publications that resulted from the activities of Annex 68, which has recently been concluded, and the work on which will be taken up and continued in Annex 86. Notice the nice coincidence of the numbers. Some more information on this new Annex 86. So the title is Energy Efficient IAQ Management in Residential Buildings. The goals and the scope are to provide a framework to improve energy efficiency for IAQ management. And IAQ management is a general term that is used in the annex to denote any technique that is used to improve IAQ in a building. So ventilation is of course one, but there are others. We focus on residential buildings and we focus both on new construction and refurbishment. You can see the list of more specific goals on the right. So far, during the preparation year, 42 institutes have indicated their interest in joining the annex. They are from 24 countries. And we are, of course, still open for other institutes to join the annex if you want. Please contact me if that is the case. And we are also encouraging active participation from companies, especially in the IoT related work, which will be the subject of the next two webinars next week and the week after. The work plan of the annex consists of 6 subtasks, where subtask 1 and 2 focus on methodology, so development of the framework for the assessment. Subtasks 3 and 4 focus on applications to specific technologies, namely smart materials for subtask 3 and smart ventilation for subtask 4. And subtask 5 specifically focuses on new opportunities that big data and IoT provide in this context. And then subtask 6 is just dissemination and management, so not really content related. Today we're going to focus on subtask 1, which is developing metrics and a general strategy for rating IAQ management strategies. And for that, we have 3 eminent speakers, namely Marc Abadi from La Rochelle University in France, Ben Jones from University of Nottingham in the UK, and Pavel Vargotsky from DTU in Denmark. And the webinar will be managed by Maria Kapsalaki and Valérie Repins, who will be working in the background to enable the webinar and the Q&A session. The timeline of the webinar is like this. So in a few minutes, we will start the first presentation by Marc, then we will have the presentation by Ben, and finally the presentation by Pavel. Each will speak for about 20 minutes, after which we have another 20 minutes for the Q&A session. Regarding this Q&A session, I would like to stress that it's important to submit your questions through the Q&A panel of the WebEx platform. Please do not use the chat for your questions. The chat is just to send messages to people, but will not be monitored for the Q&A session. Valerie and Maria are working hard to collect all of the questions that come in through the Q&A panel, so please use it, and also address your question to all panelists, otherwise it will not be captured. Please type in your questions as soon as they come up, so we can process them, and then we will try to have all the questions included in the Q&A session, or at least the ones that are most directly relevant to the talks and that fit within the time frame. With that, I would like to end with some final notes. First of all, this webinar will be recorded and published on the AIVC website in a couple of weeks, along with the presentation slides. So yeah, if you do not want to be included in the recording, please make sure that you don't intervene. And at the end of the webinar, you will be redirected to our post-event survey. We very much appreciate the time that you take to fill out this survey, because your feedback is very valuable and important to us. So we would really like to encourage you to take a few minutes of your time to fill this survey and submit it to us. All right, thank you very much already for your attendance. And with that, I would like to cede the floor to Marc Abadi, who will start with the first presentation.